Welcome back to the Agentic Project. Today we have the pleasure to be with Scott Meyer, CEO of Chip.ai. Scott, you've done plenty of stuff. You are considered a serial entrepreneur. You founded over 6 companies in the past. You've been doing marketing, you've been doing Web3, now you're doing something really cool with AI. Scott, tell us a little bit of how did you get here and what brought you to build such an amazing tool like Chip.ai?
Amazing. Great to meet you all. I think my entire life looking back, the dots that connect is I'm always trying to help people understand new technology. I live in a more rural part of the world, so I'm in Fargo, just like the movie or TV show, and I was working in AI, teaching developers, and realized that most of the people around me had no idea what I was talking about, even though to me, it's the biggest opportunity for a business owner to leverage their time and to learn more and to just empower themselves. So started Chip to make it easy for businesses to leverage AI. So no code AI agent builder, which basically means you can create AI tools for yourself or your company. You can set privacy so that you don't share the data you don't want to, and you can see the chat logs and connect with different software. So it's, I think, the easiest way to get started and grow with AI.
Hey there, it's Nacho here, and this is the Agentic Project, the podcast where Danny, my co-host, and I bring you the minds building the future of agentic AI. This is your front row seat to get all the tips and tricks to stay ahead of the curve. Are you ready? Let's dive right in.
So for those that are not familiar with Chip.ai, but maybe are more familiar with these tools like N8N, Make, what are the difference between N8N and Chip?
Yeah, if you don't know what an API is, Chip's perfect. You don't need to connect things technically like you do with N8N or Make. But what's nice is Chip does allow you to leverage Chip with those tools. So you can connect Chip into Make or into N8N. Think about Chip as a front end for chatting with an AI tool. So you can give instructions of how you want the AI to behave. You can add your knowledge sources. You can even deploy it to WhatsApp or to Slack or to Teams. A really easy way to deploy AI into tools, but you can also export your conversations into a Zapier or Make or N8N and take multiple actions off of it. Really great way to get started. For those of us who don't know what N8N is or Make, I would start with Chip and then graduate up as you continue to build.
Nice.
Okay. Actually, before we get into this AI agent stuff, because I feel like it's a really hot topic and something that everyone wants to listen and learn more from. But just to give a context of how you got here, so Chip.ai, and please prove me wrong, started as a enabler for like AI payments or payments for
Yeah.
AI usage. And then you
Yeah,
pivoted
exactly.
a while ago, you pivoted to what it is now. Tell us a little bit of what was your first idea of Chip and how did you pivot to these agents and why did you decide to take that kind of bold decision to do that back in like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, like always, we listen to our users, and that's how we decide where to go. But in the summer of 2023, we had a problem ourselves, which was we were building interesting AI tools, but we were paying lots of money to call the APIs. We wanted to set up usage payment, and at the time, Stripe didn't have a very easy setup for pay per use. And so we thought we should start a company that is the next evolution of Stripe, which is the chip, right? If you use your credit card, you have a chip on it. So that's how we got our name. But what happened was when people tried to connect or get paid for tools, they realized that they actually wanted to build more tools more easily. So they asked us, can you build a playground where we could set up AI tools and then charge for them? And then pretty soon people said, we actually want the playground, not the payments. One of our small, quick features we built ended up becoming the company. And that's been our model all along, is just follow the users where they need support. So people want more privacy, so we're able to figure out how to do open source AI models in their own cloud to comply with HIPAA or SOC 2, or things like that. People want to connect different softwares like Zapier or Teams or Slack, so we build that. So we just always listen to where the need is and build towards that.
Okay, that you touched upon something really interesting, which is building around what your users need and want. For someone that
Yeah.
is starting to build, like, it could be a larger company trying to pivot or build a new product, or some like new entrepreneurs that we're starting to see a lot of now that it's so easy to build software and stuff with data button, lovable, whatever. How do you get to have those first early adopters listen to you and talk to you and give you that feedback? Because at the end, everyone is building so many tools that having those first early users, early adopters, and having them engaging with you, it's not easy at all. So how did you manage to get
Yeah.
those early users?
Yeah, you have to take the time, right? And so what we focused on is a lot of education. That was our backgrounds. And so online workshops, YouTube videos, live build sessions. And then every time somebody signs up, we give them a calendar link and say, hey, we'd love to see what you're building and help. I think a lot of us have networks of people that we know in our own lives. So that was one way we got started, was just talking to businesses, friends and family, and like anyone we could to try to use the tool and spread from there. So I think go to market, it's always hard how you get users, but I think the key is in those early days is to invite those early users to tell you like why did they take the effort to sign up for something that's new and unproven and there's probably lots of bugs. There's something that they're curious about that got them to go online and sign up even though there's a lot against you in the beginning. So figure out what that thing is and then lean into that.
As of now, how many clients do you have?
We have over 12,000 builders on Chip, and then they service all of their customers on it. Yeah, so it's growing, and we're trying to really lean into, we have a lot of business customers now who are jumping on and using it internally with privacy and white labeling it for their own internal uses. So that's where we're building towards.
Just a 10-second break. If you feel like you're drowning on busy work or you're doing stuff that could be done by AI, Danny and I run Flowhawk, an AI agency that helps people like you integrate AI systems to delegate on what stops you from growing. So that's flowhawk.com, link in the description. Go check the website for more information.
Yeah, just one question linked to this question. Like, what's the use case that you have seen that has return on of investment?
Yeah, there's 5 use cases that are most popular, and we now build agents for those when people sign up so they can immediately jump in. But those 5 are company search, which is basically find stuff in my Google Drive, and that's often HR departments or people who are looking for compliance documents. Second is customer support, so a little bubble on your website that customers can talk to, and you can train it to convert those visitors into sales. Third would be marketing, so any kind of written content, so think social media posts, blog posts, emails, etc. Fourth would be like data analysis, so upload spreadsheets and ask questions against it. And then the fifth one would be sales, so tapping into your CRM, being able to like put data together and write or have meetings with kind of clarity. So those are really 5 common use cases. I think anything, we talk about like a 2x2, if you imagine like 4 squares, we think about AI as like personal and internal, and then team and internal, and then individual external, and one to many, so one for lots of people. What we see is people often start bottom left. So you're building something for yourself that's just going to be used internally because there's low risk, right? If you see the answer and you don't like it, you just ignore it. And once you start to feel confident, you can go up to like internal tools for an entire marketing team or sales team or HR. And again, that has a little higher bar. It needs to be higher quality because you don't want to annoy your teammates, but you can still have a little like forgiveness because it's internal. And then the bottom right is where you start to have tools for specific customers. So I'm going to build an AI for my consulting client trained on their meeting notes. So it's just for them, just with their data. And that needs to be really high quality because it's going to be used for an actual paying customer. And then probably the highest bar is one to many. So I put a chatbot on my website. Every web visitor is going to come and talk to it. So I need to like map out all of the different conversations that they might have so that they don't get wrong information. Uploading the correct pricing, making sure if they ask certain questions, it'll prompt them to book a meeting, driving them to different websites. So that's another way to think about it, is almost thematic, is which of these types of AI agents am I trying to build? And that kind of helps you figure out how much time maybe to pour into it.
And so you mentioned there is these 5 for the people to add more context. Once you log in into Chip.ai, there are these 5 pre-built agents, which are the ones that you listed. Do you guys have any track record of other like custom agents that have been built in Chip.ai? Have you spotted any pattern? Everyone is, or there is a lot of people building this other 6th, 7th agent? If so, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd say like very highly custom around data that they have access to. So as an example, I have it right here. So like limitless pendant, right? You like attach this and it is an ambient recorder. So it just records everything I do during the day. And they have an API. So I can actually tap into that API and ask questions against all the conversations I had throughout the day. And then I can take it a step further and put it into my Slack channel. And as I'm talking to people, I can actually ask my limitless agent that's built on Chip, tapping into their API, write me a blog post based on the conversation I had with Nacho, right? And so I don't have to go, first of all, I don't have to have granola on every time I have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't have to organize it in any way. It's just throwing everything I said in an entire day and then finding it. And then the key is taking action on it. So it's like recovery or finding data is one piece. And you can do that with a lot of tools. But I think the second piece is now build a memo off of this or a sales email based on what Nacho asked for. So that's like an example of highly specific. And when people build on Chip, that's what you often see is like, I'm a teacher. I'm going to upload the textbooks I use, plus YouTube videos that I've created, plus things that I want my students to learn in my class. And now I have a specific tutor that they can use. I always tell people GPT, when you use ChatGPT, it's general, right? The G is for general. For most of us, if you're using it one-on-one, that's fine because you can keep asking questions to make it specific. But what Chip solves is team AI, where we want specific outputs for people who don't have the patience or knowledge to ask more and more questions, right? They don't have the patience like you do when you're talking to ChatGPT. Write me this thing, make sure it's this long, make sure it does this, and include this file. Like they just want to say, give me the file. And if you've pre-trained it on Chip, it'll do exactly what you want. So that's how we see people doing custom agents, is it's often on a specific personal data set, and then the output fits whatever they're trying to build with it.
So wait, we are ignoring the topic that you're wearing. So for everyone, for someone not watching the video and just listening, you have a little
Yeah.
mic on top of your
Yeah.
shirt, pinned on your shirt, that is actively listening to all your conversations.
Yeah, it's a live mic. So just like you would have a microphone when you do your podcast, but it's ambient recorder. So it's much like the much aligned pin, if you remember the humane
Yeah,
pin that
the
kind of
AI
got
pin.
destroyed. Yeah, this is like a more simple version of this. So this is just one of many things, right? It's a unique data set. And that the way I talk about AI is there's three types of knowledge. So there's world knowledge, which is what LLMs are trained on. So I can go ask ChatGPT, how Spain did in the Euros last time they played the Euros, and it knows. But we want to get AI to be more specific with professional knowledge, which is the second type. And professional knowledge is like things your company knows or that you don't share, right? It's not online, it's not scraped. Maybe it's workflows, it's personal data, maybe it's my pendant. And then I think the third type of data is personal knowledge, which is how you work. So it knows everything about the world. It knows all my conversations, but I still want it to know that I like bullet points and really short responses written in a certain format, right? So I think about that as maybe it's like a nesting doll, or it's three circles, where if you can add personal information on top of the world and then add your preferences, like then you get really good at results from AI.
And you brought an interesting topic here, and that would be included in the second and third group. That it's about passing this confidential data to these open models, like
Yeah.
public models. And actually, I was reading one of your posts, and I didn't know about it, but it seems that now ChatGPT AI is required to store like the logs of your chats. And in the beginning, you mentioned that in a chip, you can set whether you want to have this knowledge private or public. What I see is that nowadays you hear people talking about that this is important, but at the end of the day, everyone is passing like a lot of confidential info to ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
there's no much there's no much concern about it. How do you see this? Do you think this is going to change? I don't know. What's your vision on this?
Yeah. I think most of the time people won't care. And that's probably fine because most of what we talk about isn't actually that important. I think the people who care have compliance requirements. So legally, they have to worry about it. And I imagine as the open models get better in quality and also easier to deploy, we'll see more people who want to have private AI for certain things. We've actually seen a lot of people use Chip for relationship AI. I could imagine people wanting to have a personal AI that they only talk to on their phone, and maybe the model just lives on their phone or their computer, and that's private conversation. But it's not very easy right now to deploy open source models and make them work. That's one of the problems Chip solves, right? So a company gets a private cloud, or we put it into their cloud, and then nothing's going out, and they still have a simple chat interface like they would with ChatGPT. But I don't know. You've seen in the last couple of weeks, Anthropic cut off their models from Windsurf because OpenAI is buying Windsurf. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of model providers are starting to see OpenAI as the company trying to eat everything, right? Like they're trying to be a granola note taker. They're trying to be an ID with Windsurf. They're trying to be a model. And I think it's going to be a little bit like retailers and Amazon, where they said, I'm not going to put my products on Amazon so that they can duplicate it and sell it for cheaper. I'm going to actually take the time to invest and do a private version. So I think most people won't care. I think businesses in healthcare, finance, some education have to care. And so the question's in that middle. Like, how many people who don't have to care will start to care because they see things like controlling information? I think AI is fascinating because it is a bit of a cultural impact. And so we've seen countries want to build out. You've seen Saudi Arabia put a ton of money into building out their own kind of infrastructure now. Because it's not just like oil where I need access to oil. It's actually that this new oil is impacting how my citizens see the world, right? And if I'm using a US-based model versus a Chinese model, maybe that doesn't jive with how I want people to see the world. And so that's the other interesting thing I think with open models is if people don't want to have certain system prompts or friction between them and knowledge, you need to have your own model. So that one's going to be politically really fascinating, and I think we're going to see it crack along typical lines. But I think that's why you're seeing a lot of countries trying to build right now, to build their own models, because if I want it to censor or limit certain information, like I have to own the model. I can't rely on OpenAI to do that for me.
That's interesting. Before, in the pre-AI era, like governments could use like social media to influence citizens. Now in this new era, LLMs will be a tool to try to influence people. Actually, you mentioned that at Chip, you help companies to host their own models.
Yeah.
In the end, this is something complicated, as you were saying. How do you manage to, and from what you said in the beginning, it seems that you are targeting like more business owners that are not that techy. Like, how do you to close this gap because in the end it's hard to deploy these models? How do you do this?
Yeah. Basically, we do a forum is the quick version. Like we offer the ability to set up a private cloud on their behalf and then build it in that private cloud and then give them the private cloud. If they have an IT team or they have an existing private cloud, like we can put it in there or hand it to their team. But sometimes people have an IT person or an IT team and they don't want to bother them or they don't want to work with them. So a lot of times people still will do a private cloud with Chip. But whether it's Azure, GCP, AWS, like we can put it in those infrastructures. And so we just make it easy by doing it is the quick version.
You work with the three providers, Azure, Google Cloud, and Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, and others. We've had some people with Oracle inquire. And so it's like we have what's called a Kubernetes cluster. We just put that in the place where they work. So we're very agnostic. And I think that'll be a huge advantage for Chip moving forward is we can play in whichever tools or infrastructure you have. OpenAI is not going to probably allow you to tap into some of their competitor tools, right? Like you can use Microsoft things for sure. They're starting to tap into other software, but I think with Chip, it's like we're Switzerland where doesn't matter where you are, you can set it up the way you want and we'll make it work. Yeah.
Just one small question. How many people are working at Chip so far?
We have five people. Okay. Heavily AI leveraged.
Yeah, right.
So it's fascinating. I think we have 4 developers and me. I think our developers, their output has probably doubled in the last 3 months even. And so it's like we've increased our team by double without having actually increased our team by double. It's the new Opus mode has just unlocked a lot. So yeah, our shipping rate is proportional with the improvements in AI, and we practice what we preach, and we use Chip for all of our marketing, all of our content creation, developing on Cursor, and yeah, it's great.
It seemed like before you saying the number, it looked like you were like 50 or 60.
Yeah.
Because all these agents that you're building on top of which does the user choose which LLMs are they using to create all this content or whatever? They get to select.
Yeah, they can choose. Yep. So we have ChatGPT 4.1 is our default. We have Anthropic 3.7, 3.5. We offer the frontier models like O3. And then we're just moving towards a usage-based model. So you subscribe and you can talk as much as you want. If you use cheaper, faster models, you get more conversations because you're using fewer tokens. If you use a O3, it's going to use up more tokens because it uses more tokens for us. We just make it really easy for people to flip through. We have the Llama family. If people go into their own infrastructure. We can offer a DeepSeek family of models. And again, all of those are open source installed in their infrastructure. So it's not sending data back to DeepSeek or Llama or anything like that.
Okay, sweet. Another topic that I wanted to ask before we leave, because it's gonna be soon. What is your actual churn?
6%.
And what is the main reason why do people churn?
It's change management. So the biggest challenge is people don't change how they work to integrate AI. So it's, I tell people the hardest thing with AI is actually people management or change management, which is how do you get your employees or your colleagues to start using AI? And the solution for us has been put Chip where they already work. So put it into Slack so they can just at their Chip chat and have conversations in Slack or Teams. You can go to your own website, you can tap into it via API so you can bring it into software you already use. So it's how do we just make it easy, both to build, but also to use. And we're going to keep going down the deployment because that's going to be the biggest hurdle long-term is, should it be an app on your phone? Should it also be on a Zoom call? Like, where are the places that people are that we can put it into?
Awesome. Awesome. I feel like we could keep this for a little
Oh, we could
longer.
go for days.
Yeah.
I'm so excited you guys are doing this. I would encourage everybody to start building. It's a great time to explore. And the stat I'll leave you with is that people with more experience actually show better performance with AI, which is very different than most tech, where young people are better because they can figure it out. So what I've determined with that stat is that knowing how to ask the right questions gives you the best answers. And so anyone listening to this, you're probably an expert in something. I love saunas. I could talk for days about saunas, and I could build an AI sauna agent way better than Nacho could, because you're in Barcelona and you don't need a sauna. You just go to the beach.
Exactly.
But you guys could create something way better that you're an expert in. So whoever's listening, you're an expert in something. And start there. Start building an AI there because you know exactly what to ask. You can get great answers and help people who aren't as experienced as you to tap into your expertise. That's what excites me about AI. And you guys are in a big city, but in Fargo, there's a lack of certain expertise areas. And so as a company, I can now use AI to fill in those gaps and say, hey, I don't have an expert coder or designer or lawyer or copy editor, but I can now use AI for that role and get better. And so use it to fill gaps and use it to augment your skills.
Sweet. That was a super good insight to close with. One last super question. What would be your top 3 AI tools you would recommend any founder to master?
Ooh, all right. Let's see. You probably need to, I'd go like basic to specific. So start with your LLM, your public LLM of choice. So I would do Claude or you could do ChatGPT. I think secondly, you should get specific. So you should use Chip to build like specific agents. And then third, I think you want to build automation tools. So like you mentioned a few of them, I'd go N8N so you can connect tools together. And that kind of gives you mimicking that knowledge, right? You have world knowledge, professional knowledge, personal knowledge. You could do the same thing with tools. Start with a broad tool, something that creates specific GPTs, and then something that connects GPTs with lots of automations. That's probably a great way to frame it.
Amazing. Amazing, Scott. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. See you on the next episode. Bye-bye.